The Champions Trophy is here. There are 7 or 8 players fit for this event. And as always, we're looking at team maps. Now, we like these because it really explains to us who's playing well, what they do well, who's playing poorly, what they do terribly, right? It's a little bit weirder with ODI cricket at the moment because these teams don't actually play their best players all that much, but it still gives you a good idea of what specialities some teams might have and what they might suck at. We've decided to look at from the start of 2022, and we are beginning with Group A, which has 3 teams that have won the tournament previously. Pakistan, the defending champions. Can you be a defending champion for like 8 years? Maybe you can. They're the defending champions. India, who's won it as well, and also New Zealand. Bangladesh is the only team who hasn't, but they have made a semi-final of this tournament. If you look back at previously at major ICC 50 over events, India had a dominant run in the World Cup before the final. New Zealand also made the semi-final when they lost to India, and Pakistan and Bangladesh were pretty ordinary. Worth remembering, although you'd have to be under a rock at this stage not to know, that India are playing their games in Dubai. The tournament opening game is Pakistan versus New Zealand, and that is in Karachi. And Rawalpindi will also host a couple of games. Do you want AMAs to connect on live calls with me or engage with our dynamic Discord community? Maybe you want ad-free content, early podcast episodes, or to stay informed through my emailer. Well, if you support us on Patreon, you get all of that plus a little bit of behind the scenes, how the sausage is made stuff. Our deepest thanks go to everyone who has supported us on Patreon so far, but the more people who do means the more content we can make. So the way team maps always work is we go on ratios for that period based on what is important at that time in the game. And you can see here that just the further out you are, the better you are at anything. And if you're too far in, that means you're not particularly good at those things. Being that we're starting with Group A, we will obviously get rid of all the other teams and we'll just go down to the ones that we need to talk about. If we show them combined, I think you can see here that India have a couple of key points where they're a lot better than everywhere else. But you can see that some of these other sides are quite handy also. But let's get rid of all the other teams and just start with India. They have a win percentage of 68% in this period. However, Jasprit Bumrah is now no longer playing in this. So that does change things quite a lot. Mohammad Shami is back to international cricket after a year, but Mohammad Siraj is not in the squad. They've only played 9 ODIs after the 2023 World Cup. So I don't know if anyone actually knows who from India is in form or not. But when we have a look at from 2022 onwards, you can see that they are monstrously better than everyone else in the power play. They're 47% above par. And a huge part of that has been Rohit Sharma and his new intent. And even when they lose a wicket, they still have Shubman Gill coming in. So there's a lot of strength here. And this is just a ridiculous peak. You can see they're above average in the middle overs as well. But you can see there is a little bit of a decline all the way through, right? Like by the time they get to the death, they're above par, but they're not massively above par. And we saw that a couple of times against England. They batted really well and they started really strongly and then it just kind of declined for them. But you can see in the power play again with the ball, they are monstrous. The interesting thing about this is that Mohammad Siraj is a huge part of this. And of course, he's not in this squad. Jasprit Bumrah goes at 3.7 runs and over in this period too. And he's not playing in this tournament. So it means that Arshdeep Singh and Mohammad Shami are going to have to stand up. But this has been a strength for India, and it may not be in this tournament. It should be pointed out that when Arshdeep does take wickets, it is generally with the new ball. And if we just skip the middle for a second, we go to the death, you can see that they're not massively ahead of the curve at the death. That's with Jasprit Bumrah playing quite a few of these games. Him not playing actually opens up an opportunity for teams that generally you just don't have against India. In the middle, they can go with whatever combination they want. Kuldeep Yadav is definitely one of the better spinners in the world. Varun Chakravarti has been dominating lineups, although he hasn't played a lot of one-day cricket. Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, Washington Sundar, any order they want here, they're probably going to be the better spinning team in this tournament, or certainly right up there. And it shows here just how good they've been. So we expect some regression in their bowling power play, and you have to be a little bit worried about their bowling at the death. But this is still a very good team, all things considered. And of course, now they know how to win a trophy, so they'll just win a bunch in a row. I'm sure that's how it happens. Anyway, they haven't won a global tournament in ODI cricket since 2013, so if there's any pessimistic Indian fans going out there, they can worry about that. But the truth is that this is probably still the favourite of the tournament, and yet the best white ball bowler in the world, perhaps in the entire history of our sport, is not playing. It shows you how strong they are, but also maybe how weak some of the other sides are. All things considered, though, India hasn't had the same issue with injuries that a lot of the better sides have had. So if we have a look at them compared to New Zealand, you can just see how dominant India have been, or how undominant New Zealand have been. Look at this beautiful steady Eddie shape, as we would expect from New Zealand. They are okay at everything and great at kind of nothing. They have the 4th best win-loss ratio coming into this tournament. In the power play, Ratchet Ravindra has often done quite well for them, and obviously we have seen him explode in other major events, so the same thing could happen again. But Devon Conway has been poor for quite a long period of time now. If Ratchet Ravindra doesn't score quickly and Conway gets off to scratchy starts, if Kane Williamson comes in, they can get really stuck at the front. They certainly don't maximize their power play like some other sides. In the middle, though, they do very well. Kane Williamson is much better at manipulating the strike, and when there isn't as much pressure on him to really hit hard, he's fine. Daryl Mitchell is incredibly important in this period for them. And if Devon Conway can make runs, I expect him to help them out here as well. And they've also got Glenn Phillips and Michael Bracewell on the other end of this. And that might be the most important thing, because you can see here, they just haven't made any runs at the death. They generally bat fairly conservatively, like they're not going nuts at any stage. So you would expect them to do better at the death going forward. And we've talked a lot about their batting, but realistically, this tournament is being played in Pakistan. So the most important thing is that Mark Chapman plays and makes all the runs. Generally, when New Zealand have success in these tournaments, and it's a bit of a cliche to say they punch above their weight, what they tend to do is always make around par scoring, and then they cause some issues in the opposition's power play. It's kind of this period of the game that they're at their absolute best. But a lot of this also comes from the fact that they had Bolt and Southey. They have neither of them now. I have no issue with Matt Henry, though, so he can certainly do the Southey role and has probably been bowling a lot better than Southey recently, so no issues there. They've been giving Will O'Rourke the new ball. I'm not sure that really works for me. I see him more as a guy that bowls from like the 8th over through to the 20th over and then comes back for another spell hitting the wicket in the middle. I'm not sure that they could do that, though, because of all the other issues they have. They've had a lot of injuries. Ben Sears, when we started this video, was going to be in it, and I think I got a message while it was happening that he may not play. And it's not just Sears, it's also Lockie Ferguson, who, again, should be a very good bowler for them in those middle overs period. It's a real issue for them because seam is their strength, and it's nowhere near as strong as it has been in other tournaments. As far as spin goes, it'll be Mitch Santner and whatever part-time detritus they can put together. I mean, Glenn Phillips is trying to be a full-time bowler, but he's still what he is. And Ratchet Ravindra will give them a couple of overs. Santner bowled really well in the last World Cup, far better than I thought he was going to. So he's still a really important one. But this isn't a plus zone for New Zealand. The team holds steady there. And it's the same at the death. They really don't have great death bowling, and I still think they're going to struggle in this period. If Lockie Ferguson is fit and they take enough wickets early on in the game, he can really cause problems for middle order and lower order players. But if not, I'm not sure what their best weapons at the death are. Their last ICC victory was 2021. Their last ICC white ball victory, or their only ICC white ball victory, was year 2000 with Chris Cairns. Because of all the injuries that the other teams have had, I think this has opened up a little bit more for New Zealand, but I still don't see them as being a huge challenger here. Let's compare them to Pakistan for a minute, and you can see here again just how ordinary New Zealand is at everything, whereas Pakistan have a few peaks here that are worth talking about. Pakistan's form after the World Cup has been very good. They've won a series against Australia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. I should say that I've seen some of those series. It's probably been a bit shakier than it sounds, but they are playing some good cricket, and they had the second best win-loss ratio after India coming into this tournament. Unfortunately, with Sam Ayub not playing, who had a great start to his ODI career, it means that Babar Azam will probably open with Fakhar Zaman. And you can see that realistically, they're not a great team early on in their innings. Where they come in is this middle over period, where they are very good at just manipulating the spin. All the problems that Bubba and Rizwan have in T20 cricket of going a bit too slow in that period is kind of perfect for ODIs. And they are a team that sort of bats a little bit slow at the top, manipulates the spin quite well in the middle, and they actually hold up quite well at the death. Now, you look at their current lineup, and they got Tayyab Tahir, Cameron Ghulam, Kushtil Shah. It isn't exactly the most road-tested or the most experienced or the most scary thing to look at on paper, but it has worked for them over a period of time now. Bowling in the power play traditionally was another thing that helped Pakistan in all these tournaments. And of course, they have Shaheen Afridi and Nasim Shah, which, depending on what era you take those two guys, is really good. It doesn't quite feel as great at the moment. However, Afridi has picked up 20 wickets in his last 8 games at an economy at 5.8. And 7 of those wickets have come when he's bowled in the power play up front. Harris Ralph is a pretty good bowler in the middle overs, and I think they use him quite well. And you can see that they're a plus middle overs team, despite the fact that they really haven't had any spinners that they've been able to trust. Abrar Ahmed has started to come good at recent times, and he's taken a few wickets, but he's only played like 6 games. I think generally when Pakistan's at its absolute best consistently in a tournament, it's how they go in the middle overs with the ball. This actually shows you that there's a little bit that work from here. So you never know. And they've been a really good death bowling team. So considering their form and the fact that they don't have as many injuries, again, as some of the other major sides, this looks pretty good. And our overall rating system actually likes them quite a bit. They've got some backup pace all-rounders, some part-time spin options. I think I'd feel more confident if I knew that their spinner was locked down, but they have been playing a bit more one-day cricket than other teams, so their players are used to it, and the tournament's at home. So can the defending champions or the attacking champions go on to win this tournament as well? I have no idea, but they are in a weaker group, so I think that gives them a good chance. The only issue is most of the key injuries seem to be in Group B, so, they've missed out on that. And the last team in Group A is Bangladesh. And you can see that while Pakistan has a lovely shape going on, Bangladesh is not particularly great. If we compare it to New Zealand, you can see that New Zealand's wasn't inspiring, but it's still better than Bangladesh's, all things considered. Interestingly enough, Bangladesh's overall rating is not like that bad. They're about par, right? Slightly above par if you want to be. They just don't really feel like that the more that you go into it. And at least part of the reason for that is just the middle overs. They don't bat particularly well in the middle overs, and they don't bowl particularly well in the middle overs, which is a very weird thing for an Asian cricket team, because generally you will have good spinners and you will play spin better. Bangladesh seems to have neither of those. And when you go all the way through, the only thing that really holds up for them at all as a plus is death bowling. I'm giving that obviously to Mustafizur Rahman, but you can give it to whoever you want. And you look at their squad, Lytton Das is not in it, and then you look at his record and you're like, that might be one of the worst years anyone's ever had in ODI cricket. Tamim Iqbal also has retired, and you look here, those are the two guys you would expect to be in the power play, and the power play, even with them in it, hasn't been good. So the chances of it being better are unlikely, but let's hope it does. I don't even know who you would say is their best top order player. It's probably Shanto, and I think everyone knows how much I love Shanto, but even I would struggle to be selling him here. Also in the middle overs, they have Mahdi Hassan come in as a kind of middle overs pinch hitter. It's not like a traditional pinch hitter. It's more like he's a very good player of spin, the way that Akshar Patel is. So you change your order up a little bit. And one thing I would say, and it's less about the middle, maybe more about the death, is Jacob Ali, I really like because he's got this weird technique and it upsets people so much that I end up bowling very oddly to him. He's been playing at number 7 a little bit of recent times. There's something there. I don't think he's a career number 7, but that's where he is at the moment. And so you look at their batting on hole and you're just like, there's just nothing there. It just doesn't pop at all. Their bowling is a little bit more interesting to me. And if you don't watch a lot of Bangladesh cricket, you'll be like, oh, have they got a new spinner? They're quick bowlers, right? Because they still have Mustafizur Rahman and they still have Taskin Ahmed, two very good players. But it's Nahid Rana and Tanzim Saqib that added to that. And suddenly there's variety, there's new ball stuff, there's death, there's hit the pitch. And in Nahid Rana, if you haven't seen him, he's just quick. But we just want to see more of it. It does cause some issues for them because Mahdi Hassan is generally a pretty good bowler with the new ball. And I don't know how they fit him in anymore at the moment. But they've also got other spin options in Rishad Hassan, who's the young leg spinner who's still developing, but his best ball is really, really good. And Nasim Ahmed as well. So again, they can mix and match between their seamers and their spinners. It's not a bad attack at all. It's just that I'm not sure they're ever going to bowl at anything worthwhile. I've watched them quite a bit against the West Indies, and I kind of really like their bowling, but they weren't really out batting the West Indies, and they're not a particularly good batting side. They're not even in this tournament. Of all the teams here, it's only England who have a lower win-loss ratio. And of course, England haven't even been playing close to their best side. Bangladesh has, and it's just gone really, really bad. They finished 8th in the World Cup, which was enough to qualify for the Champions Trophy. But after the World Cup, they have lost 3 and won only a single series. I think they have the easy group in that I'd rather be playing New Zealand and Pakistan than I would the other group. But at the same time, I still think New Zealand and Pakistan are just too strong for them. And so having looked at all of these teams, there is absolutely no doubt that India is the strongest and they are the favourite for the tournament. And what's remarkable about this is they have the easy group, but also the Bumrah injury hasn't changed anything. We all saw them play against England, who obviously didn't play particularly well. Most people think India is the best chance. I think Pakistan should be the team that qualifies beside them, but New Zealand aren't that far away and they've just beaten Pakistan in a warm-up game. If Bangladesh qualify for the finals, I'd be surprised. Is there something above the word surprised? Anyway, we're going to be covering the Champions Trophy all the way through. Please come on board, like, subscribe, do all those things, and we'll see you from the beginning to the end of this trophy. South Africa did not choke. In 1906, South Africa needed 284 to win. They'd only passed 100 in half their test innings at that point. At 105 for 6, it seemed impossible. They fought back but lost another flurry, leaving 45 to win with 1 wicket in hand. At the crease was Dave Norse, who was a capable batter, and he was joined by Percy Sherwell, the only debutant captain keeper and number 11 in Test cricket history. And these two were doing it. A huge crowd in South Africa cheered on every single run. With 8 left, Sherwell edged between slips for 4. Straight after, Norse ran a 3. England bowled 3 dots. All they needed was 1 wicket to tie. Instead, a leg side full toss, boundary, game over. This was Test cricket's first 1-wicket win, and their last partnership was a record for almost 100 years. But it was also something else. This was the first Test match that South Africa had ever won. Buy my book on Amazon, Overthrowing Cricket's Empire.